Hi, thank you for tuning into this video. Today we're going to be looking at the basic fundamentals of the distributive property. First, right off the top, I'm going to say do not use the acronym FOIL. I'm not going to tell you what it means, but I'm sure you'll hear about it. But that only works with multiplying binomials together. Okay, it doesn't work for any other type of distributive property, so it's better to just use distributive property as it is from the basics and forget all about FOIL starting now. Okay, so let's take a look at a basic example first of all. So let's start off with, let's suppose we want to multiply 7 times, is this working? 7 times 14. Okay, well, we can do that. We can basically separate 14 into the two component parts of it. We got 10 plus 4. Okay, once you separate it like that, then it's a little bit easier, and you can actually multiply this in your head, really. So 7 times 10 gives you 70, and then 7 times 4 is 28. Therefore, 7 times 14 is 98. Okay, so what if I were to say then, what if I'm going to multiply 7 multiplied by x plus 4? Well, it's just the same sort of thing. 7 times x plus 4. Actually, I don't know why I wrote that over there. Anyways, 7 times x plus 4, we're going to, just like we did up here, we multiplied 7 times 10. Here I'm going to multiply 7 by x. And then I multiplied 7 times 4. So then after that, I'm going to multiply 7 times 4 down here. So I'm going to have now 7x plus 28. Okay, that has a similar form as this line up here. And then what if I were to say, well, let x equal 10? Then we can evaluate, and then if we just multiply, we substitute the 10 in for x, and then 7 times 10 is 70, plus 28, we get 98. Okay, so it's the same exact form as this over here. Now I'm going to go to something a little bit larger. We want to multiply 9 times 235. Okay, we can separate this 235 into all of its parts as well. So I'm going to multiply 9 times 200 plus 30 plus 5. Okay, and if I multiply each of these individually, so 9 times 200 will give me 1,800. 9 times 30 will give me 270. And 9 times 5 will give me 45. And then if we add all those together, what do we have? We get 2,115, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken. I apologize if I mess that up. So that's how we would multiply 9 times 235. You could basically do it in your head if you were to separate all these into 200 plus 30 plus 5. Okay, so we're just distributing that 9 in multiplying by 200, we multiply by 30, and we multiply by 5. Okay, so what if now we change this and say, okay, well, I want to multiply 9 times 2x squared plus 3x plus 5. Okay, the same sort of thing applies. We're just going to multiply. We're going to distribute. Sometimes we say expand. We distribute that 5 or that 9 into the bracket and multiply, because there are 9 groupings of this. This is what this means. There's 9 sets of this 2x squared plus 3x plus 5, 9 groupings of that. And now we could add this all up. We could write this out, 2x squared plus 3x plus 5. We could write that out 9 times and add it all together, but it's more simple to multiply. It's quicker. So 9 of these means we're multiplying 9 times all of this stuff. So we multiply 9 times all of this, we get 18x squared plus 27x plus 45. Okay, and then again, if we let x equal 10, we'll do the same thing as before. We have 18, we substitute 10 in for x here, substitute 10 into x here, and add the 45. And then 10 squared is 18, or sorry, 10 squared is 100. 18 times 100 is 1800. Please excuse this watermark here. I haven't been in school for the last 2 months, so I haven't been able to hook this up to a smartboard itself. So we got 1800 plus 270 plus 45. And then we add all that together, and if I was correct the first time, we'll say that's 2,115. Okay, so that's the basics of distributive property. Okay. Now, if I were to continue here, go down here now, so this is example 3. I'll number these just so we can keep track of my progress and flow here. So example 3, what if I say, okay, well, I want to multiply 16 times 4. So we can do it the same way. We can say, well, then that's 10 plus 6 times 4. And we just multiply from sort of the back end. So we just multiply the 4 times 6 and the 4 times 10. And then we get 40 plus 24. And we add those together and we get 64. So 16 times 4 is 64. Okay, so it doesn't matter if we distribute from in front of the bracket or from behind the bracket, it still works out to be the same thing. Okay, now for question 4 here, what if we now multiply 16 times 14? Okay, so now we're upping the ante a little bit. Well, we know 16 is 10 plus 6, and we're multiplying 14, which is 10 plus 4. So before, we multiplied the 4, multiplied by the 10, and then by the 6. And if we just had a 10, we would do the same thing. So what we can actually do is we multiply this 10 times this 10, and then we'll also multiply the 10 times the 4. And then after that, we'll multiply 6 times 10 and the 6 times 4. Okay, so if we multiply this together, so we get 100 plus 40 plus 60 plus 24. Okay, so this part is from the first grouping, this first part of the distribution, and this part is from the second part of the distribution. Now these are all just values, so we can just add them all together now. So 40 plus 60 is 100, plus 100 is 200, so we get 224. Okay. Okay, and if we're then going to multiply this the old-fashioned way, like we were taught way back when, in the olden days, like when I was taught, we would do 16 times 14 here. And so in the ones column, we got 4 times 6, and here's that 6 times 4 right here. And 4 times 6 is 24, which is evident here. 4 times 6, well, that gives us 24. Only the 4 can fit in the ones column, so the 2 has to move over to the tens column, because that actually is 20. And then we multiply 4 times 1, but that 4 times 1 is actually 4 times 10, which is this, or the second red arc here. 4 times 10 gives us 40. And so because that 2 was the 20 from before, 4 times 10 is 4, or 40, plus 6, so that gives us, or sorry, plus 2 gives us 64. Okay, so it's 4 times 10 plus 20, because that 20 moved over from the 24 from the first multiplication. Okay, now we're multiplying by this 1, but that 1 is in the tens column, so we're actually multiplying by 10. So we're going to hold the space of the ones, so we're going to be multiplying by tens, and 1 times 6 is 6, but remember we're multiplying by 10, so it's actually 60, and this 6 times 10 gives us 60 here. Okay, so that gives us a 6 here, and then when we multiply 1 times 1, we get 1 right there, but that 1 times 1 is actually 10 times 10, and this 10 times 10 is what gives us that 100, so that's actually 100, and then when we add all the columns together, we get 4, we get 12, and then we get 2 here, so we get the answer of 224. Okay, it's easier to see this way because we're breaking up the 16 and 14 into the two component parts to make the multiplication easier. Let's now move on to a little bit more challenging example. We're up to example 5 now. Let's multiply 16 times 147. And so 16, we know, is 10 plus 6. 147 is 100 plus 40 plus 7. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply and distribute everything out here. So we're going to multiply 10 times 100, 10 times 40, and 10 times 7. And then after we're finished with that, we're going to multiply 6 times 100, 6 times 40, and 6 times 7. Okay, so 10 times 100, we get 1,000. Actually, I probably should be writing this in red. 10 times 40 is 400. And 10 times 7 is 70. Plus, just tidy that up a little bit. So plus, that plus here, 6 times 100 is 600. Plus 6 times 40 is 240. Plus 6 times 7 is 42. Okay. Now, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually line these things up in terms of, instead of just writing it all out in a horizontal line, what I might do instead of this, so this is like, here's the line that I might have done instead. So I've got 1,000, then I've got the 400 from here, then I've got the 70. So then in this next part, I would say, well, plus 600. Well, 600 is in the hundreds, so I'm going to add 600 here. And then plus 240, I'll add 240 there, plus 42. Okay, so this makes more sense when we get into using variables. It makes things a little bit easier to group things and collect like terms. So we got the 1,000, then we got 400 plus 600. There's 1,000 plus 240, so that's 1,240, and then plus we've got this 112 here, and then we add it all together. So we get 1,000 plus 1,240, which is 2,240 plus 1,000 or 112. So we get 2,352. Okay, so if you multiply 16 times 147, you should get 2,352, unless, of course, I have made a mistake, which is quite likely. Okay, so we're going to now, I'm going to use this same format, and I'm going to move on to using a bit of algebra.